Just live on the Weather Channel as we continue our coverage of severe tropical cyclone YASI, which is now a Category 5 system, and it's expected to hit the Queensland coast tonight, most likely around Cairns or Innisfail. Tom Saunders joins me in the Met Centre for all the latest now. Tommy, firstly, let's talk about the track of this tropical cyclone. It's been a very predictable track, and it continues to be.
It has been, still moving west at about 30 kilometres per hour. This one's not going to be doing any U-turn or dying away. It's heading straight towards the most populated part of our tropical coastline, so looks like one of the biggest natural disasters in our history is on the way.
We're just live on the Weather Channel this morning as tropical cyclone YASI continues to move closer towards the Queensland mainland. Now it's a Category 5 at the moment, as we just heard, the most severe system that we can get here in Australia. Winds up to and over 280 kilometres an hour. We're going to see some flooding with this, with storm surges, those damaging winds. Power lines are going to be down, so residents probably going to be without power for up to a week once this hits. We've got a massive warning area. You can see that indicated by the shading of red here. Now that goes from Cape Melville in the north right down to Serena, extending inland to Croydon and Hughenden. And we've got the cyclone watch, which is current for coastal areas for the remaining tropical interior, east of Camooweal and north of Winton. Have a look at this impressive radar as we can see that moisture just spiralling around. At the moment, it's located around Willis Island. We've seen gusts there at 140 kilometres an hour. At Hamilton Island, which was evacuated yesterday, we've already got gusts up around 70 kilometres an hour. So that's quite strong there as it is. Now we're going to see it intensify as it continues to move in closer, and they're expected to make landfall later on tonight.
As I said, you need to prepare yourself mentally for what will be, I think, a very scary experience for many people. So I know that there are many communities right now in North and Far North Queensland who are facing a frightening and catastrophic event. To those people in our far north, I know that for many of you right now, you feel far away, and many of you no doubt feel very alone. But I think it's important that we understand we are all in this together. When one part of Queensland hurts, every part of Queensland hurts. And just as the people of North Queensland were there for southern and central Queenslanders during the floods, we all stand ready to shoulder this burden with you, not just today, but every day after this event. I've already had offers of help from coming into my office from all around Queensland, from all around Australia, and already from other parts of the world.
And if there are some key messages that I'd like to give at this time, they are these. One, there is a very, very small window of opportunity for people in those low-lying areas that are faced with the storm surge issue to get themselves out, get themselves to the evacuation centres, which are being widely advertised. For people in other areas, the closer you are to where landfall of this cyclone hits, the closer you are, the longer the period of danger for you. We know that from about 12 o'clock today, the winds will be gale force. That's about 100 kilometres an hour, and that makes movement outside, driving on the streets, quite dangerous. So from the areas closest to where the cyclone will cross the coast, it will be dangerous to move from that time.
As mentioned, we're seeing the biggest evacuation in Australia's history as well.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge, really. It's going to be one of our biggest natural disasters, probably, because it's very rare that you get a Category 5 system heading towards the populated part of the Queensland coast. They're quite common, actually, on the north coast of Western Australia. We've had quite a few over the past decade or so. But for the Queensland coast, there's been some Category 4 systems like Larry back 5 years ago, and some Category 4s also back in the 1970s. But we haven't actually had a Category 5 hit the coast in at least 30 years.
Let's talk a little bit about that intensity and the size of this tropical cyclone, because this is another thing that a lot of people are talking about, just how large this system is and also its intensity. Firstly, let's talk about the size. Now, at this stage, we know that the eye of the tropical cyclone, based on what we've seen through the radar, is around 50 kilometres wide, Tommy, but it's a fairly large system with gales extending around 400 kilometres on either side of that eye.
Yeah, so it's about 10 times the size of Cyclone Tracy as far as the diameter of gales goes. It's not quite as big as it looks there. A lot of that's high cloud, but if you see that massive, thicker cloud in the centre of the Coral Sea, that's the system there. So a diameter of about 800 kilometres altogether.